So I've been thinking a lot, which is like something I always do. I wouldn't say always. It's a really good pastrami sandwich. I usually don't. I usually cook rather than buy things to eat, but the weather has been so wackadoodle. I haven't been able to tell what's going on. And then depending on where I am, also, from one end of town to the other, the weather's completely different. It's spring. It's usually like that. You're such a good, yummy duck. I love you. So, hey, I don't want to hear that. Sit down. Sit, Mimu. Go ahead and sit. So I was thinking, maybe I should, do a video. I was like, well, what are you going to talk about? 1:44 on the clock when I said that. And I'm like having this whole conversation with myself. I do this often, but it usually is like not so. And then I'm saying to myself, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know. Just talk. And then the other part of myself was like, well, nobody wants to hear that. I'm like, well, fuck them then. And then that actually wasn't part of the conversation, but something like that. Something like that. Not exactly. So I was thinking about, what could you possibly have to say that's important to other people? Well, I figured out a lot of stuff. A lot. And not just like I figured it out, like I know how to do it. Which is a very useful skill. Because people can know to do this or that or the other thing, but if you don't know how to do it, the fuck good is that? So, the last 12 years, or 12, what am I talking about? 12 years, why did I say that? 12 years, somebody, I don't know, I guess that resonates with somebody. The last 12 people that I lost, and it didn't take 12 years. Unfortunately, it was a lot quicker than that. And, I'm completely alone in this world. Like, I really don't have, I have no family. I'm not actually that alone, but I have no family. No blood, like, relative family. Hey, stop. That's true, and it also isn't true. I have a half-sister who's alive. I have a number of blood relatives that are alive. None of whom I speak with, should I say. Or speak with me, is really the way I should put it. Because, I think it might actually just be all mutual now. Anyway, I do have family members that are alive. None of whom care about me, I guess I should say. I'm trying to find a way to define those people. Yeah, they don't care about me. None of them. And if they do, shit, I sure as fuck don't know about it. Anyway. But yeah, I do have family. Like I have the half-sister, I have some uncles, that are still alive on my mom's side. But yeah, like, not anybody in my immediate family. The people that I really cared about, the people that I talked to every day, those people are all gone. But like, not only did I survive that, but stop it. I survived this thing. Noodle. Noodles and noodles. And I also, found ways to make myself joyful. Grief is something that I do really well with. I wouldn't say like I do well with it. That's not what I mean, but I help people really, like, the things that I know about grief and how to overcome it. Not just overcome it, but not lose parts of yourself along the way, because I know what that's like too. That's something I'm really good at. Really, really good at helping, like relating to people. And I know better than anyone really. When somebody dies, and people say the dumbest shit to console one another. I mean, I understand it, and at the same time, it's useless. It's pointless. Bella, stop. I remember, like, when right after my mother died, Joy, right after my mom died, I think a couple people, not many, like maybe, like literally maybe a handful of people. Stop, Moo! I don't even know what you want over down here. You're just being a rascal. Oh my God, you're so cute. I bet she was the cutest puppy ever. She's my noodle. She's my yummy duck. You're so yummy. I love you. I think a couple people said to me, I'm sorry for your loss. And I was like, I didn't fucking lose anyone. I mean, like, I remember feeling angry with them. Like, why are you saying that? I didn't lose her. I know that what they were saying was to be helpful and to be kind. And at the same time, but it's things like that that I know are like really there. It's really difficult to deal with, and it's hard to be around people. Oh, excuse me. When you've lost someone, because you don't know exactly where your triggers are. Like it's different. Everything changes. Kind of like a midlife crisis. Like seriously, nothing's the same. And so you're like struggling, like, really looking for anything that's similar. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that we find are similar sometimes are like our bad habits and things like that. And so, we can, like, people go back to drinking. Some people like go back to whatever that was for you, Now, while I was grieving, I was also being attacked by a group of fucking criminals. Real estate and property fraud, IRS fraud, all kinds of fraud they were involved in. All kinds of fraud. And, but, like, these people knew this about don't eat my clothes, please. These people knew this about my life, and they used the information, and they were relentless. But I mean, they were obviously very practiced at what they did, because nobody does that the first time and does what those people did. There's no fucking way. So what I'm saying is they're practiced at what they did. They better get practiced at suffering too. I imagine that they already are. What I said. So, you have to understand, like, the amount of distress that I was under when I was grieving. It was like being in war and grieving. That's what this was like for me. Which is probably like the only reason I really gave up on the whole, on dealing with those people, is because I honestly, like, couldn't do anymore. Plus I was completely alone. That was like no joke. That was no joke. But those people in Nepoma, they were terrible people, and they are terrible people. And I don't think they're not going to get past what they did to me, and not in this life. Yeah, definitely not this life. What I said. But I mean, while I was grieving, and it was really my younger brother, that death fucked me up. That death did something to me that none of the others had done. It really, like, took someone who was already teetering around on the edge and just, like, pushed me way over. And I couldn't hang on. There was nothing to hang on to. I couldn't even hang on to myself. I didn't know which end was up. It was like being in an avalanche, like, and everything, by the time everything settled, I was without a house. I was houseless. My business had gone totally to shit. I had lost my personal relationship with a man who was really no good for me at all. But still, it didn't feel good at the time, is what I'm saying. And also, being houseless, fuck, that was gnarly. With her in a crappy little 2-door car, no friends, nobody cared about us. 11:12 on the clock when I said that. No, like, literally nobody cared about us. No, it wasn't just that nobody cared, because I know people care now. Like, I know that there are people that care now. Something happened to me the other day at a gas station after I had some trouble with the car, and I've got angels too. Angels have angels, which I know sounds a little funny, but it's just the truth. So, but I saw one of my angels that day. But anyway, through all of that, I knew that I knew that I wanted to live. At least I made up my mind that I wanted to live at some point. I remember at one particular time, I was driving up on the mountain and I was really tired. And I was really spun out from being stalked so much. It created this kind of like overtone of paranoia in my life. And like, I knew what was happening, but to try to relate that to other people, paranoia is no help. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear it. So it makes people feel like super uncomfortable, and it kind of makes them wonder if you trust them, and just all kinds of weird shit. So it's a parasite, really. But I didn't really know how to deal with my shit yet. Like, all these things that happened to me, and I really genuinely didn't know what to do with all of it. Like, like I said, we were completely alone. I had no one that cared about us. No one at all. Like, no one at all. Not even a little bit. Nobody cared. Not only that, people were lying about me, to me. All kinds of things were going on. I was still taking prescription medication. I mean, honestly, because I felt like I needed it. Not because it got me high or anything like that. I never took Klonopin for those reasons. Never. Klonopin never got me high anyway. I never experienced that with that medication. But, I had things in my life. My smoking cigarettes was not under control. I was smoking, like the pre-rolled ones where you just like buy a pack, and I would just smoke. And I would spend a lot of money on cigarettes too. I didn't have my shit in order. I didn't know how to deal with things. But what I realized, anyway, this one time up on the mountain, I was driving, and I remember I had gone to like 1 or 2 different spots, and I was like in a third spot, and I was really tired. And I wasn't looking at the road for just like a second, because it only takes about a second up there, less. And I look up, I looked up just in time, and Bella and I were ready. We were driving off the side of the road. Like, wow. And it scared the shit out of me. I remember I sat there for maybe 5-10 minutes, like, gathering myself. Because it was like, it would have been like, bye-bye, Rebecca and Bella, like, no more. And I thought, wow, that's gnarly. So I remember it was then that I figured out I wanted to live. And I know that sounds wild too, but like really until you make a decision about things, you don't really know how you actually feel. And like I hadn't been suicidal, but I hadn't been like pro-life either, you know? Like I hadn't sat down and thought about what I wanted to do or how I could help people or how I could help myself. I really hadn't thought about it. But it was in that moment that I almost drove off the cliff, and it was totally an accident. That it shook me, and I thought I really want to live. Like I don't want to. It's just I don't want to suffer, and I know the difference between, wanting to actually die and just wanting the suffering to stop. They're very different things. So once I figured that out, I started going up the mountain more. I didn't know why. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was seeking isolation, really. But, like, I needed people. But the people that I could have in my life, they were a mess. And so I didn't want those people. I wanted other people. I didn't know how to make myself a match to find those people, No idea. I had been through all these deaths. I had, had my home stolen, my house stolen from me. I had my business stolen from me. Excuse me. I had all these people treating me like shit. And, making my life just so much worse. So, I kept going up the mountain. I kept trying to figure it out. I kept trying, and, like, I would say, like, the victories of, like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, I understand the light bulbs going off. They were few and far between for a while. Hey, miss it? They were few and far between for a while, and I felt frustrated by that for a time. And then, I realized that, this was a longer process than I understood it to be. And me being the really, determined, tenacious person that I am, I kept at it. And then, the accident happened where I helped save that man's life, and the car, the Subaru, was given to us, and all these things happened. And I realized again that although Bella and I were in a much better position and everything like that, I was really ungrateful. I didn't know how to be grateful. I felt like I had been through so much. It was like the world owed me something. That sense of, not the world owed me something, but like it was about damn time. And but the thing was, and it's okay to feel that way, because a lot of us have earned. We more than earned and deserved our good blessings on this planet, no doubt. But why I'm saying this is because I couldn't be grateful for the blessings that I was getting. And so then again, it was like, okay, more shadow work. I need to deal with that. So I did that. And, in the process of doing shadow work, there's always shadow work that we really didn't realize that we didn't know that we needed to do, like unknown unknowns. So I set about doing that. And by the time I was done, I realized I was not only, hey, take it easy, Duck. By the time I was done, I realized that, wow, I had been through all these things. I was actually ecstatically fucking happy. Go figure, right? Not just happy, joyful. Totally joyful. And also, like, a really healed person. Like my broken heart was healed. My mind was healed. I wasn't taking any prescription medication. Didn't need it. Also, I wasn't experiencing anxiety or depression or any of those things for a long time. So, I thought, well, what more can I do? And it just got weirder and weirder. So I started honing, like, what would you call them? My supernatural skills? I'm not sure what to call them. Like, you know, psychic medium channel, you know, Holy Spirit type stuff. And even there, I found that, I think I had to be, even there I found that people were trying to stop me, trying to humble me, trying to tell me this and that and the other thing. And I really, like, that bothered me for a long time. Let's get some that bothered me for a long time. Let's see if I can do this. Because I didn't really understand all of what was going on with me. I didn't really, nobody looks in here while they're walking by. You know, I didn't really understand it all. Or, like, the purpose of it. I didn't understand, you know, I didn't understand, like, I mean, I knew what I had been through, but I didn't know, like, what to do with it. You know, like, okay, so here's all this information. Now what? Kind of thing. And the truth was, for a long time, there was nothing to be done. It was just a matter of learning to live like that. And, okay. You know, learning to live that way for a while and be happy and, like, not, you know, fuck it up in some way or other, or, like, to really learn to maintain and sustain, not just maintain it, but sustain this joy that I had found. And I mean, I genuinely felt like I had struck gold. You know, I couldn't figure out, you know, what was wrong. I kept thinking, like, do I have a brain tumor? I mean, I genuinely thought that. I didn't have anybody to talk to throughout this process, so I didn't know some of the things that were happening with me. Like, obviously, I mean, I knew it was somebody new, but I just didn't know who. But I figured a lot of things out, and I suspect I probably could have done like save some time if I had talked to people about it. But whatever. It's a big deal when you figure things out on your own. And I did it. I really genuinely did it on my own with God and my dog. And YouTube. Can't forget YouTube. Like Angels AI. There was all kinds of stuff helping me. And there still is. But, you know, so, like, living that way for a while and then, like, honing, like, you know, what people would coin, I guess, is, like, paranormal, if I can speak, paranormal gifts, supernatural gifts, whatever. I mean, I had people telling me, you know, demons are talking to you. I'm like, well, you know, if they are, so what? And also, there was another thing I kept getting told. What was it? Oh, you know, the whole, like, you know, don't mess with things. What was it? Like divination, things like that. But it's like, it got to be ridiculous to the point where, like, I'm not supposed to use my own gifts. Like, and I mean, I can read tarot, but I don't. And, like, all kinds of stuff. I really cannot. And then there was, like, this really, really reluctant prophetic word that I left the other night, which actually partially came true for me. I wouldn't say, like, partially. It came true. And at the same time, it just wasn't what I thought it was. But it was there all the same. It just wasn't the thing that I thought it was. But anyway. So I thought, you know, well, what gifts do you have to share with people? Like, what could you say or show people that they couldn't do on their own, or, you know, something like that. I'm like, you know what? I am more joyful than most people on this planet. A. B. I figured it all out on my own. And I'm proud of that. I am. I figured it out on my own with my dog and God. No help from any other human being. And I also did it while without a house. Like, what? Yeah. Hey, duck, take it easy. That's a big deal. And also to not just to maintain, but sustain it all this time, and like also like be really strong and like going strong in what I know is like an amazing life. That's like, so when that voice that that we all have inside of us really says, you know, what could you possibly have to say? I have a lot to fucking say, and it's useful. It's not just things that, you know, or it's not just useful for me to say it. It's useful for other people to hear it. I know that there were some things that I implemented. Like, I started having, you know, a gnarly spiritual awakening like a couple years ago. But in the grieving and, you know, thieving of my house, fucking losers, and the subsequent bullshit that, you know, came about because of that, you know, I didn't think that I would be sitting here talking to you today, talking to anyone, honestly, let alone that I would be fully healthy and healed mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like, I didn't think that was possible. If you had asked me, you know, a couple years ago, if you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you yes. But like, yeah, no, I didn't believe it was possible is what I'm getting at. Hey, I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think that it was possible, and I also didn't think that it was possible to, like, not just sustain, but like maintain, but sustain that sense of joy. I didn't believe it. I didn't actually want to believe it. It's a really handsome guy back there. I didn't really want to believe it because, you know, if I could, in fact, like, you know, maintain and sustain a sense of joy, then it means that probably most of my life was my responsibility that I hadn't been joyful. And that was a hard pill to swallow, but like, you know, swallow it, whatever. Spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. But I realized, you know, that in doing all of this, I realized that, of course, I mean, I've always known that about myself, but, you know, I realized that my story had a lot of power, a lot of strength in it, a lot of faith. And faith is a gift most people don't have. And they certainly don't have the kind of faith I have. And it was born out of, really, I saw it as a necessity. Because I only had two things to choose from, really, and it was faith or fear, and really it had to be faith for me. And I made that choice about a year ago, to just give up on fear altogether. Fuck it. Fuck that. Like, concern for things, sure. Like, preparation to, you know, not have to go through certain things, sure, yeah. But fear? No, not really. I think the closest thing I experienced to fear lately is, like, excitement about things. And that's about as close as I get to fear anymore. Not to say that I'll never fear anything again. I mean, I honestly don't know. I heard somebody say something a while ago about their shadow work being done, and I wanted to comment on their video and say, like, are you dead? Like, shadow work doesn't stop. You know, like, if you're alive and your heart is beating, you should never be done with shadow work. You should never be done learning, and you should never be done with shadow work. Anyway, I thought, well, how can I use this to help, like, to be of service to others? because I genuinely don't know sometimes, you know, like, I genuinely don't understand sometimes how to help people. I know a lot of people, like, need help and they want help. But how do I position myself to help them? And, like, you know, who's my target audience? You know, who am I trying to help? And I think a lot of the time the answer to that is just, we're just trying to help ourselves and help the people around us. I love you so much. This is my noodle. So I don't know who it helped to see me kissing my dog, but some things are still being ironed out. And but I have to say it's been a really strange trip. A really lovely, strange, beautiful trip. Just amazing. Really amazing trip. And I wouldn't change anything, even if I could. So, saying all of this to say, if you had asked yourself a couple years ago, you know, if you could do, you know, blank, whatever it is, insert word there, you know, would you have believed it? 31:31 on the clock when I said that. Probably not. And if you did, then fuck off. But if you didn't, and you're like the rest of us humans, that, you know, wonder if we're going to be able to make it, if we're going to be able to do, if we're, you know, not even going to be able to, like, achieve some great big dream, but, like, literally if we're just able to, like, make it through to the next day. You know, if we're doing, you know, if we're doing enough, if we're being good enough, or working hard enough, or, oh, itchy nose, or whatever it is. It's always just like one nostril or the other, really, that, and as I said that, both of them start itching. Okay. You know, it's the day-to-day stuff I found that was some of the hardest for me. It wasn't, you know, the big changes weren't that big of a deal to me. It was just, you know, adapting from one thing to the next. It was, you know, but even like big changes from like one day to the next, it was like, okay, you know, because I'm an extremely adaptable person, so I didn't have trouble with that. It was the day-to-day stuff that got me wondering, you know, can I maintain this? Can I keep going, you know? And I found, and I could say, you know, like probably 2 years ago, I would have said no. A year ago, I would have said, not sure. But, like, now I know. Because I think so. For a lot of us, it's the day-to-day grind stuff that gets us. It's not so much the big changes. You know, all those can fuck people up too. It's the day-to-day grind that gets most people down, like long term. So I would say 33 on the clock when I said that. So I would say, you know, when you're wondering about yourself, when you're doubting yourself, just keep in mind that, you know, a couple years ago, you wouldn't have thought any of this is possible. 33 is 44 on the clock when I said that. Hey. Oh, wow, you sound like such a mean dog. Stop that. Stop. Miss it? I mean it, Peanut. You know, ask that person that you know, that was your doubter, you know, a couple years ago. It's usually us, you know. And if the answer was no, you didn't think you'd make it, well, then you're probably going to make it through this too. And I know that sounds kind of like, well, of course I'll make it, but I mean, like, better than make it. Like, you know, do really well for yourself, you know, like, instill some changes in your life now that are going to serve you, you know, when you're going through your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, 80s, 90s, 100s, 110s, 120s. Yeah. So, just remember that you're more powerful than you can possibly imagine. and they, whoever they is, they really will rue the day that you figured it out. And also, you're more powerful and more precious, and you have more purpose than perhaps you can possibly imagine right now. So hang in there. Don't ever give up, especially not in yourself. And yeah, always treat yourself and others with love, blessings, and compassion. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.